Welcome to the Darkstream. Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, and Infogalactic News. As you may have heard, tomorrow night's debate with Andrew Anglin on National Socialism has been canceled. It may be rescheduled. I hope it will be. But I don't know. I have to admit, I was a little bit surprised when Anglin agreed to do it. But, so I don't know whether, he decided that he needs more time to research the history of the Third Reich. I had heard that, I had heard from some sources in his camp that he was doing some basic research on certain aspects of politics in Germany around that time, which I found kind of amusing. Knowing the source that they were talking about, I already know what mistake that he's going to make. Anglin doesn't have any fresh ideas. Anglin doesn't have ideas. He's a clown. I mean, he's literally, he plays the same game as Jon Stewart. He tries to say one thing, and then when he gets called on it, then he tries to say, "Oh, I'm just a clown. Don't hit me." And so, the thing is, you have to understand is that there's a lot of information, and it goes a lot deeper than the kind of stuff that the daily Stormer types cite. There was a guy, in fact, who calls himself Andrew Anglin on my blog, and he tried to say you can't cite Jonah Goldberg or any other Jew, and you have to read these 3 books. Well, one of them I had read. The other 2 I hadn't read, so I went and took a look. That's funny. See, this is what people do. Even when there's something like a debate like the one with Johnson, where Johnson, lost so badly, he didn't even try to debate. He gave up. After I presented my initial 12 minutes or whatever it was, he just gave up. He didn't even try to respond because he knew he couldn't. I mean, he's smart enough to know that. I'm not withdrawing from anything. I heard from Tara that Andrew couldn't make it suddenly. So we don't know if he's going to reschedule or not. So anyhow, so the thing that you have to understand is that most of these guys are, whether you're talking about major media figures, whether you're talking about mainstream media figures, whether you're talking about conservative media figures like Ben Shapiro, or whether you're talking about, a performance artist like Andrew Anglin. These people are intellectual lightweights. Now, they're accustomed to being able to play their rhetorical games and to play to the crowd. And so that's why, and then the thing is, they have enough support from people who are just going to say, "Oh, he won. He smoked them, blah, blah, blah," like that guy was doing about Greg Johnson. It's not true. It's not even remotely true. But they will try to spin it their way. What they're not accustomed to is that they're not accustomed to someone like me because I'm fluent in rhetoric and in dialectic. Also, as people may recall who were around back in 2004, I like to do research. Research for me is fun. Research for me is my way of procrastinating and not doing what I should be doing, which is writing. And so, I shudder to think of how many things I should be writing right now. And so, they're not used to this sort of thing. And so, because in most cases, the average intellectual is somebody who doesn't understand rhetoric and is discombobulated by it. And the other thing is that I'm not afraid to lose. I enjoy getting beaten in a debate. Because if somebody can beat me in a debate, I'm going to learn some really interesting stuff. I'm going to learn stuff that I did not know before. And so, it was kind of fun. The only debate that I can recall losing in the last 10 years or so was with a biology professor. And he's the one I actually learned a tremendous amount about evolutionary theory from. I mean, the updated stuff. Obviously I knew all the, generic stuff that you learn in school. But I didn't realize how much had changed in the world of evolutionary theory until doing a little written debate with this guy. And so, and it was really interesting. I mean, I think it was actually interesting for both of us because, some of the questions that I asked him, he didn't even understand what I was talking about until I explained it to him. And he's like, oh, that's a good question. We don't know, and nobody even knows how to answer that question. Yeah, it's still on the blog. If you look for it, you'll find it. Look under TENS. I think that was actually when I learned the acronym. So, but anyhow, I've also gotten a couple requests from people saying, "Oh, don't pick on Andrew Anglin. Why are you doing this?" and that sort of thing. And I'll be blunt. I have tremendous contempt for him. I don't know if you're aware what he did to Ben Garrison, who's a good man, a man of the right, and I don't know if he was initially responsible or not. I'm not clear on all the details, but what I do know is that he delighted in the tremendously negative ramifications that Ben Garrison experienced in his career as a result. And when Ben Garrison did an interview with him, Anglin was totally unrepentant. What Anglin did to Ben Garrison is actually pretty similar to what he did to Cloudflare. He changed Garrison's cartoons to pretend that Garrison was a Nazi sympathetic to to Anglin's fake views. Yeah, I understand. That's why I said I don't think that Anglin started it. But the point is that he was involved in it, and when he had the chance to talk directly to Garrison about it, he was totally unrepentant. And in fact, one of the quotes that I put up today that people were saying were just so terrible and awful about how he deserved it because he didn't get the interwebs and blah, blah, blah. What a lot of people didn't realize is that is a quote of Andrew Anglin to Ben Garrison. So the answer is simple. You know, I will never show any mercy to anyone like that. I have nothing but complete contempt for a despicable little creep like that. You know, he's not in my intellectual league. He's a clown, and he doesn't merit any respect or regard. He's a nasty little creep. Now, you know, there are plenty of, you know, let's say, different folks on places like Poll and 8chan and whatever. And, you know, they're very valuable for what they do. You know, they are, you know, the whole weaponized autiste thing is phenomenal. I have tremendous respect for Poll. You know, and I understand that occasionally people are going to get caught up in the crossfire. You know, Poll doesn't care about Ben Garrison. Poll doesn't care about me. Poll doesn't care about anybody. You know, and that's okay, because that's what they are. You know, they're very good at what they do. You know, and if there's a little bit of crossfire here and there, well, you know, that's Poll. But it's very different when you're talking about a public individual. When you're talking about somebody who affects to be some type of leader. You know, you have to be responsible. You have to show some leadership, and you have to be able to admit it when you do someone wrong. You know, when I say never apologize, I am not saying never admit to wrongdoing. I'm saying never give in to public pressure from SJWs. There's a huge difference. You know, I do memes. It is entirely possible that at some point I might, you know, do a meme that is hurtful or harmful to a good person who doesn't deserve it, who doesn't merit that treatment. And if that happens, I will absolutely apologize. I will attempt to make right the harm that I've done to that person. You know, I encourage you to look up that, you know, do a Google search for it. Look up that interview of Ben Garrison and Andrew Anglin. It's appalling. It's you know, it's literally reprehensible. Now, I don't think you understand how bad Boomer Tier would be. My memes are not that bad. You know, they may not be great, but judging by the reaction that they get from their targets, you know, they achieve their effect. And so, but the point that I'm making, oh, that's just the Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skulls. So, anyhow, yeah, Bill Mitchell is Boomer Tier. I think that's technically true. I'm not actually sure. I don't know that I've ever actually seen anything that Bill Mitchell has actually ever done. No, I do not believe in the horseshoe theory. I think it's stupid. Horseshoe theory is for people who don't understand how closely related National Socialism is to socialism and communism. So, anyhow, you know, but here's the thing, is, you know, somebody who is a leader, somebody who is actually brave and that sort of thing, is not going to run away from a debate. And everybody knows it. Especially when I was debating Greg Johnson, somebody who claimed to be Andrew Anglin, one of the Andrew Anglins, was complaining that they were not allowed to enter the chat or be involved in it somehow. Was the pre-game trash talking intended to scare them away? No, not at all. I mean, I actually went and, just because I had already laid out a case against Greg Johnson, I actually created a completely different case that uses very little of the data that I used when I talked with Greg Johnson. See, this is the thing that a lot of people don't realize about me, is that I almost never use everything that I've got. When I'm talking to people about stuff on the blog, sometimes I'll just say something, make a statement, and people ask for a citation or a source, and I just say no. It's not my job to do their research for them. And it's always kind of funny because the usual reaction, it used to be, is, oh, well, then you must be making it up. And it always amuses me because I never make these things up. I mean, I've been blogging since 2003. I've been writing nationally syndicated columns since 2001. I've had people looking to poke holes in everything that I write for 16 years. I don't make that kind of mistake very often. And I don't bluff. There's no point in it. Somebody's going to call you on it. So you better be ready for it. Anyhow, there's just no substitute for deep learning. There's a reason I have all these books. These are not even close to all my books. These are just my favorite books. Would I debate Sargon? Sure. Yes. Yes, I'm still playing soccer. In fact, in the last game, I was informed that I was going to be sold for $2 million to an opposing club. It was kind of funny because they played, the other team showed up and they were 2 players short. And so they had some other players that were coming in 20 minutes, and so they asked for a loan of 2 players. And our captain kindly loaned me and one other player. And anyhow, I scored against my own team in the first 5 minutes and nearly scored a second time. So they were pretty irritated. But we won, so it was fine. Anyhow, yeah, it's actually very disappointing how low the average level of knowledge is, especially in given how much information there is on Infogalactic and Wikipedia. I mean, one of my favorite insults is your level of knowledge doesn't even rise to the level of Wikipedia. I think David Irving is a Don Quixote. I think he's constantly foolishly tilting at windmills. And I have no idea who Will Chamberlain is. And so yes, we're going to be announcing Voxdiversity soon, and that's one of my main goals, is to attempt to pass on some of the knowledge that I've acquired and pass it on in small, digestible, 20-minute chunks that that people are capable, in a way that people will be capable of at least retaining most of it. I'm pretty sure that at least 50% of the people watching this Periscope understand the reference. No, Anglin didn't say he wouldn't do it. He just said he couldn't do it on Wednesday when we had scheduled it. So maybe we'll be doing it, I don't know why. So we'll wait and see. Maybe he's running. Maybe he needs a little more time to prepare. Maybe he just had something come up, you know. So I have no opinion on BitChute. I haven't even ever been on the site, because I don't know anything about it. But Rational Wiki says I'm a stalker. That's just weird. I mean, they say all kinds of crazy stuff, but no, I'm not a stalker. So I don't. Tara, I like Tara McCarthy. She's great. She's a Castelia House author, and she's going to be publishing a book with us. I think, possibly before the end of the year. So, anyhow, we will, people talk about the Holocaust and that sort of thing. I don't see that it's relevant. The Holocaust is neither the worst nor the most recent genocide that has taken place. And so, I talked about this with Louise Mensch, and I said, most people don't care about the, most people don't care about the Holocaust. It's happened 60 whatever years ago. It's totally meaningless to people who are not of the West. It's totally meaningless to the younger generations, and so it's so the whole Holocaustianity thing is becoming less and less relevant, as there are fewer and fewer survivors around, and no, it's not meaningful at all. It's totally irrelevant. We're as far away from the Holocaust in history, as people at that time were away from, I don't know, the Opium Wars. There's a tremendous number of people who died in China at that time. I just said, no, it should not be. It's not meaningful. That was it. The Taiping Rebellion. How obsessed were people with the Taiping Rebellion 60 years ago? It's just not relevant to most people today. I think for the average person, on the average of 15 to 20 years. So that's about as far as is relevant. A single generation. So, anyhow, but those are my thoughts. So we'll see. It will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if Anglin does decide to show. I will be ready if he does. And if he doesn't, well, I have a feeling that people will remind him of that from time to time. I think Andrew Torba is smart to go on Tucker. I think it's going to be great. I hope he mentions the #1 political philosophy bestseller that he wrote the foreword for, which is now on pre-order. And so, we will see. But Tucker's smart. Tucker's more or less on our side, and so anyhow, I actually need to get back to polishing it up to make sure that we get it out there on time. So actually, I can't say take that, Stefan, because Stefan has already taken back the #1 spot. So no, Stefan and I don't. I mean, we have no we have no rivalry whatsoever. I'm delighted that his book is doing that well. We're actually publishing one of his novels this fall. I'm a huge fan of Stefan. I have a lot of respect for what he and Michael do. And in fact, Voxversity is very influenced by by the work that Free Domain Radio does. So anyhow, have a good evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.